Better Than Before begins with a deceptively simple question. How do we actually change our everyday behavior? Most people know what they want. They want to exercise more, procrastinate less, eat better, sleep better, stay organized, and follow through on the routines that would improve their lives. The problem is not usually lack of desire. The problem is consistency. Gretchen Rubin argues that habits are the invisible structure of daily life. They quietly shape our health, our productivity, our mood, and even our relationships. Because habits run in the background, they often matter more than the big goals we talk about. A goal can point us in the right direction, but habits determine what we repeatedly do when life becomes ordinary. That is why habit change matters so much. Most of life is not lived in huge breakthrough moments. It is lived in recurring routines. What time you wake up, what you do when you feel stressed, how you manage your time, how you handle temptation, how you organize your environment, and whether you follow through on small commitments. These patterns create the texture of your life. Rubin's key insight is that people often fail at habit change because they use the wrong strategy for themselves. They copy advice that works for someone else without understanding their own nature. One person thrives on strict rules. Another rebels against them. One person needs accountability. Another needs freedom. One person likes starting fresh. Another succeeds through routine and repetition. This makes the book especially useful. It is not just a generic list of productivity tips. It is a study of self-knowledge. Rubin wants readers to understand that habit change is personal. What works brilliantly for one person may fail completely for another, not because one person is stronger, but because people respond differently to expectations, structure, temptation, and identity. That perspective is liberating. It shifts self-improvement away from shame and toward strategy. If a method has not worked for you, that does not automatically mean you are lazy or broken. It may mean the method does not match your tendencies. The opening message of the book is powerful because it combines realism with hope. Habits are hard to change, but they are not random. There are patterns, strategies, and forms of self-understanding that can make change much more likely. If you can understand how you operate, you can stop fighting yourself blindly and start building habits that actually fit your life. One of Rubin's most important ideas is that habits are not just useful extras. They are the architecture of daily life. In other words, habits are the systems that hold ordinary life together. This matters because many people underestimate their habits. They focus on outcomes and ambitions, but they do not pay enough attention to the repeated behaviors that create those outcomes. They think about becoming successful, healthy, calm, productive, or organized, but they overlook the routines required to support those identities. Rubin emphasizes that habits reduce decision fatigue. When a useful behavior becomes automatic, you no longer have to debate it every day. You stop constantly negotiating with yourself. That saves energy. It also increases reliability. A good habit makes the right action more likely even when you are tired, busy, or distracted. This is why habits can feel so powerful. They remove some of the chaos from life. When you have habits around sleep, planning, exercise, writing, decluttering, or preparing for the day, those behaviors begin to happen with less friction. Instead of hoping you will do the right thing, you build a structure that helps the right thing happen more consistently. Rubin also shows the darker side of habits. Bad habits are powerful for the same reason. They become normal. They reduce thought. They run automatically. A habit of checking your phone constantly, delaying difficult tasks, overreading at night, or leaving everything until the last minute can shape your life just as strongly as a good routine can. That is why the book treats habits seriously. They are not small details. They are repeated choices that gain strength through familiarity. Over time, they define what your days actually look like. This lesson is especially valuable for self-improvement because it changes where you focus. Instead of chasing occasional bursts of motivation, you start building systems. Instead of asking only what you want, you ask what you repeatedly do. That question is often much more revealing. The book's broader message here is simple. If you change your habits, you change the structure of your life. And if you change the structure of your life, better results become much more likely. Rubin's official description of the book centers exactly on this practical question of how to form and break habits in everyday life. Content reference, oocyte, 0. Index equals 0. One of the most memorable parts of Better Than Before is Rubin's discussion of the different ways people respond to expectations. This idea later became famous in her broader work as the Four Tendencies, but its logic is already deeply connected to the book's habit message. Rubin argues that people differ in how they respond to inner expectations and outer expectations. Inner expectations are the promises you make to yourself. Outer expectations are the demands, deadlines, and responsibilities that come from other people or external systems. Some people are good at meeting both. Some are good at meeting outer expectations, but struggle with inner ones. Some resist both. Some question everything before they commit. This matters because habit strategies often depend on the kind of expectation that motivates you. For example, one person may be able to create a private schedule and follow it with little trouble. Another may ignore a self-made plan but perform extremely well when someone else is watching or counting on them. Another may resist control completely and need to feel that the action is a personal choice, not an imposed duty. This is a major breakthrough in the book because it explains why so much habit advice feels inconsistent. A strategy that works beautifully for one person may fail for another because it is built on the wrong kind of expectation. If you are someone who thrives under accountability, then external structure can be incredibly helpful. A coach, deadline, class, or partner may keep you consistent. But if you are the kind of person who resists being boxed in, that same structure may backfire. You may need autonomy, identity, or flexibility instead. This idea encourages a much smarter form of self-improvement. Rather than copying habits mechanically, you begin paying attention to what kind of motivation and structure actually works for you. You stop asking only, "What is the best habit strategy?" and start asking, "What is the best habit strategy for my nature?" That question can save people years of frustration. It turns habit building from guesswork into self-study. Rubin's official book materials and reviews tied to the book specifically reference her framework for understanding personality differences in relation to habits. Content reference, oocyte, 1, index equals 1. A powerful message running through the whole book is that self-knowledge matters more than self-judgment. Rubin repeatedly suggests that successful habit change begins when you understand your own patterns instead of attacking yourself for not being someone else. This is incredibly important because many people approach self-improvement with the wrong emotional tone. They are harsh with themselves. They assume that if they fail to stick to a routine, the answer must be more guilt, more pressure, or stricter rules. But that often creates more resistance, not more consistency. Rubin offers a calmer and more intelligent alternative. Pay attention to what is true about you. Are you a morning person or a night person? Do you like simplicity or variety? Do you do better when others expect something from you or when you create personal meaning around it? Do you need outer accountability or do you need private ownership? Are you energized by novelty or steadied by routine? These questions matter because habits must fit the real person living them. If you build a habit system around fantasy, it will eventually collapse. If you build it around truth, it has a much better chance of surviving. This does not mean excusing every weakness. Rubin is not saying that people should avoid challenge or never change. She is saying that change works better when you start from honesty. It is easier to build a good system when you understand your tendencies, your environment, your temptations, and your strengths. This is also why the book feels more humane than many self-help books. It does not demand that everyone become the same discipline machine. It accepts that people differ and that those differences affect what kinds of habits are sustainable. That insight is deeply practical. If you know that clutter drains your focus, simplify your environment. If you know that deadlines motivate you, create accountability. If you know that rigid rules make you rebel, create a more flexible structure. The more accurately you understand yourself, the better your systems become. The deeper lesson here is that self-awareness is not passive. It is a tool. Once you understand how you operate, you can stop wasting energy on strategies that do not fit and start choosing methods that actually work. One of the strengths of Better Than Before is that Rubin does not present one universal trick for changing habits. Instead, she explores many different strategies that can help depending on the person and the situation. This is useful because habit change is rarely solved by one technique alone. Sometimes the key is scheduling. Sometimes it is convenience. Sometimes it is accountability. Sometimes it is clarity, monitoring, identity, or environment. Rubin treats habits as something that can be approached from multiple angles. For example, scheduling can make a habit more real. If you decide in advance when something happens, you reduce uncertainty and delay. Monitoring can make behavior visible. When you track an action, you become more aware of it. Convenience matters because habits are easier to maintain when the desired action is simple and accessible. Clarity matters because vague plans are easy to avoid. Rubin also emphasizes that some people do well with abstaining completely, while others do better with moderation. For one person, it is easier to eliminate a temptation than to manage it in small doses. For another, absolute rules feel too rigid and are harder to sustain. This again reflects her belief that self-knowledge matters more than one-size-fits-all advice. Another valuable idea is the importance of safeguards. People often overestimate their future strength. They assume that later they will resist temptation, remember the plan, or feel motivated. Rubin encourages building systems that protect good intentions before the moment of weakness arrives. This is one reason the book feels so practical. It pushes readers to stop depending only on mood and start designing support around their habits. Good behavior becomes easier when the structure supports it. The larger lesson is that change becomes more likely when you use multiple supports at the same time. A habit is stronger when it has a specific time, a clear trigger, a supportive environment, and a reason that fits your identity. Rubin frames the book as a practical, concrete framework for understanding habits and changing them for good. Content reference, OSITE, 2, index equals 2. One of Rubin's most popular insights is the distinction between abstainers and moderators. This idea is simple, but it can dramatically change how people handle temptation. An abstainer is someone who finds it easier to say no all the time than to say no sometimes. For this person, total avoidance creates peace. If a temptation stays out of reach, the inner struggle goes down. But once the door opens a little, resisting becomes much harder. A moderator is different. Moderators prefer balance and flexibility. They can often enjoy something in limited amounts without feeling that it must become all or nothing. Strict avoidance may feel unnecessary or even triggering for them. This distinction matters because many people assume their preferred strategy must be universally correct. But Rubin shows that the better question is not which strategy sounds healthier in theory. It is which strategy actually reduces struggle for you. For example, someone trying to stop overeating sugar may do best by removing it completely from their environment. Another person may feel fine having occasional sweets without losing control. Someone trying to manage screen time may need hard boundaries. Another may be able to create moderate, scheduled use. The practical value of this idea is enormous. It helps people stop copying habit rules that do not fit their temperament. It also reduces unnecessary guilt. If moderation always becomes a battle for you, maybe abstaining is wiser. If strict rules always lead to backlash, maybe moderation works better. What Rubin is really teaching here is that temptation management should reduce mental friction, not increase it. The right strategy is the one that makes good behavior easier over time. This is one of those ideas that sounds simple, but can instantly clarify why certain habits keep failing. You may not lack discipline. You may simply be using the wrong relationship to temptation. That kind of self-understanding is one of the book's biggest gifts. It helps you choose a style of habit control that matches your reality rather than someone else's advice. Better Than Before also highlights a truth that many people underestimate: convenience shapes behavior. Human beings naturally move toward what is easy, visible, familiar, and available. That means your environment is constantly influencing your habits. This matters because people often think habit change is mainly about inner strength. Rubin shows that setup matters too. If the desired action is convenient, it becomes more likely. If the undesired action is convenient, it becomes more likely too. This principle is extremely practical. If you want to read more, keep books where you naturally spend time. If you want to exercise, reduce the steps required to begin. If you want to avoid junk food, do not keep it easily available. If you want to focus better, make distraction less accessible. Small environmental changes can dramatically shift the odds. This idea is liberating because it means you do not have to win every battle in the moment. You can shape the environment before temptation arrives. That is often much easier than relying on willpower during a stressful or low-energy moment. Rubin's approach here is realistic. She understands that good intentions are fragile when the environment constantly pushes in the opposite direction. A well-designed environment acts like silent support. It nudges you toward the behavior you want without requiring endless internal debate. The book also suggests that outer order can help inner order. When your space supports your goals, your routines feel more natural. When your surroundings are chaotic, friction rises. For self-improvement, this is a powerful reminder that change is not only psychological. It is structural. The more your setup supports your intention, the less energy you waste resisting the wrong thing. That makes habit building more intelligent and less exhausting. Instead of trying to become stronger every hour, you make the right action easier to access and the wrong action harder to repeat. That is often one of the fastest ways to create real improvement. Another major lesson in the book is that habits grow stronger when they become visible and structured. Rubin emphasizes tools like monitoring, scheduling, and accountability because they reduce vagueness and keep intentions connected to real behavior. Monitoring works because it makes your actions harder to ignore. When you track a habit, even in a simple way, you become more aware of what you are actually doing. That awareness can change behavior immediately. A habit that stays invisible is easier to break. A habit that is being noticed becomes more concrete. Scheduling matters because vague intentions are fragile. Saying "I will do this sometime" rarely works as well as deciding exactly when it happens. Once a habit has a time or a reliable place in the day, it stops floating around as a wish and starts becoming a routine. Accountability adds another layer. Some people are strongly motivated when another person expects something from them or when there is a visible standard to meet. A class, a coach, a friend, a public commitment, or a regular check-in can make follow-through far more likely. What makes Rubin's treatment useful is that she does not claim everyone needs the same amount of structure. Some people naturally monitor themselves well. Others need stronger external support. Some feel energized by accountability. Others feel pressured by it. Again, the method should fit the person. But the broader principle still stands. Habits improve when they are clearer, more visible, and more structured. Monitoring reveals reality. Scheduling gives the habit a home. Accountability helps support consistency. These are not flashy ideas, but they are effective. They translate vague desire into daily behavior. And that is exactly what habit change requires. For viewers building their own routines, this lesson is simple. Do not let your habits stay abstract. Put them somewhere real. Give them a time. Track them. Attach them to support if needed. The more tangible the habit becomes, the easier it is to protect. Rubin's habit philosophy also connects strongly with identity. Lasting habits become easier when they align with the way you see yourself, or the way you want to see yourself. This matters because people do not just follow routines. They follow stories about who they are. If you believe you are messy, inconsistent, bad at routines, or naturally undisciplined, that belief affects behavior. It becomes easier to justify the old pattern. But when a habit is connected to identity, something changes. Reading is no longer just a task. It becomes what a reader does. Exercising is no longer just a health goal. It becomes part of being someone who takes care of their body. Planning is no longer just a productivity trick. It becomes part of being organized and responsible. Identity gives habits meaning, and meaning increases consistency. Rubin also stresses clarity. Vague values rarely create strong habits. Clear identity and clear intention do. If you know what matters to you and what kind of person you want to be, it becomes easier to choose habits that reinforce that direction. This is why even small routines matter. They become evidence. Every repeated action sends a message about who you are becoming. A habit is not just something you do. It is something that slowly shapes self-perception. That is powerful because it gives even ordinary actions emotional weight. Going to bed on time, writing one page, doing the dishes, preparing for tomorrow, or showing up for a workout may look simple from the outside. But each one can strengthen an identity built on follow-through. The deeper message is that habits are not separate from character. They help build character. The more often your actions line up with your values, the more natural those values begin to feel. That is one reason the book resonates so strongly. It treats habits not as cold routines, but as part of how people create a better version of everyday life. The most useful way to apply this book is to stop asking for one perfect habit formula and start building a habit system that matches your personality and real life. Begin with one area where better routines would make a noticeable difference. That might be sleep, exercise, focus, reading, food, clutter, punctuality, planning, or screen use. Then ask a series of honest questions. What usually stops me? Do I need external accountability or private ownership? Do I work better with strict rules or with moderation? Does convenience support or sabotage me? What time of day am I most likely to succeed? What kind of structure feels natural instead of forced? Next, choose one or two strategies that match your nature. If you benefit from scheduling, give the habit a fixed time. If you benefit from monitoring, track it. If you need accountability, build it in. If temptation is the issue, redesign the environment. If identity matters most, connect the habit to the kind of person you want to become. The key is not to overload yourself with every tactic at once. The key is to choose smart supports that fit you. Another important lesson from the book is to respect reality. Do not build your habits around the version of yourself you imagine on your best day. Build them around the version of yourself who actually has to live them. That makes change more durable. It also reduces the cycle of overcommitting and quitting. Better habits are not built through fantasy. They are built through systems that can survive ordinary life. The practical beauty of Rubin's approach is that it makes habit change feel flexible but not vague. You are still responsible, but you are also strategic. You are not just trying harder. You are trying smarter. That mindset can make all the difference. Because once your habit system fits your real nature, consistency becomes much more realistic. When you step back from the full book, several major lessons stand out clearly. First, habits are the invisible structure of daily life. They shape your results far more than occasional bursts of motivation. Second, habit change is personal. People respond differently to expectations, rules, accountability, temptation, and structure. Third, self-knowledge is one of the most powerful tools in self-improvement. The better you understand yourself, the better your habit strategies become. Fourth, there is no single method that works for everyone. Scheduling, monitoring, convenience, accountability, abstaining, moderation, and environment design can all work, depending on the person. Fifth, Temptation should be managed in the way that reduces struggle for you. Some people do better with strict avoidance. Others do better with flexible moderation. Sixth, environment matters. The easier a behavior is to do, the more likely it becomes. The more tempting and available a bad habit is, the stronger it becomes. Seventh, identity strengthens habits. Repeated behavior helps define the kind of person you become. And finally, better habits are built through realism. Lasting change happens when your strategy fits your actual life, rather than an imaginary version of yourself. Together, these lessons make Better Than Before a thoughtful and practical guide to everyday behavior change. It does not rely on hype. It relies on self-understanding, structure, and strategy. The book is officially presented as Rubin's practical framework for making and breaking habits in everyday life. Content reference, OSITE, 3, index equals 3. The final message of Better Than Before is not that everyone should follow the same perfect routine. It is that people change more successfully when their habits are built around truth. Truth about their tendencies. Truth about their weaknesses. Truth about what motivates them. Truth about the environments they live in. Truth about what kind of structure helps instead of hurts. That is what makes this book so useful. It moves habit change away from generic advice and toward personal strategy. It reminds you that the goal is not to copy someone else's life. The goal is to build a better version of your own. And that better version is created through ordinary routines. The habit of sleeping on time. The habit of preparing ahead. The habit of saying no to what drains you. The habit of making things easier for your future self. The habit of aligning your daily life with the person you want to become. This message is both practical and hopeful. You do not need a total reinvention overnight. You need useful systems that match your reality and support your values. Once your habits fit your nature, change stops feeling like constant war. It starts feeling more like alignment. The right actions become easier to repeat. The structure of life becomes steadier. The version of you that once felt hard to reach starts becoming more normal. That is the quiet power of the book. Better habits do not just help you do more. They help you live more deliberately. And that is how, little by little, you become better than before.